What is going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 25 of Let's Be Frank with your host, your friendly neighborhood bull, Frank Mattis, brought to you by the Old City Sports Network. And we have a great show for you today. I will obviously break down the Super Bowl. I will give you a comprehensive preview of how I think the game will shake out. I will break down the Chiefs and some of the things they do well, and I will give you a prediction of how the game will go. But before I do that, I want to let you guys know about our fine sponsors. WarlordBeardOil.com is your place to go to take care of your beard. If you put in the promo code Old Sports, you get 15% off on all your beard products, and any order over $65 or more will get you free shipping. So head over to WarlordBeardOil.com, put in that promo code Old Sports for 50% off on all your beard products, and any order over $65 or more will get you free shipping. I want to also let you guys know about our other fine sponsor, Decals by Aaron. If you are from the Delco area and you are proud to represent Delco, then this is the spot to go to in terms of getting your Delco gear that fully encapsulate what it means to be from Delco. You want to go to facebook.com/decals by Aaron or go to decalsbyaaron.com for all your top quality Delco merchandise. So how are we feeling? How are we feeling about this game? Are we nervous? Are we excited? Scared? Pumped? I'm pretty excited. I'm not gonna lie. I feel really good about this game. And I'll obviously dive into why I feel good about this game. If anything, I'm more concerned about the weather. I plan to go to South Philly for all the festivities of the games or the game, excuse me, and I hope the snow doesn't screw up our plans. My girlfriend and I, love going to South Philly. It's I think it's the best vibe in terms of Eagles games are concerned, and after victories going to Broad Street. In the big games like the conference championship and the Super Bowl, it's a great vibe, and I cannot stress that enough. I've been to both the 5 Points in Northeast Philly, but I think the best vibe is on Broad Street. It doesn't get much better than that. So hopefully the snow doesn't throw a monkey wrench in our plans, and hopefully we'll be celebrating our second Lombardi on Broad Street. So I look forward to that. As far as the game is concerned, I feel really confident in the Eagles. I think that they really don't have to do a whole lot in this game in terms of changing their identity, changing their game plan. They've sort of basically, to me, really just do what they're doing, and I will get deeper into that. But if you look at the Chiefs specifically, based off some of the numbers, offensively, they're as middle of the road as you're going to get. I mean, they're 17th in total offense, 14th in passing, 22nd in rushing, and 15 in points. I mean, that's pretty much um, textbook definition of middle of the road. You look at those numbers, and I think there's two reasons for that. I think one, injuries have kind of affected them in terms of what they want to do offensively. Losing Hollywood Brown for the bulk of the season, being without Isaac Pacheco, Rashee Rice. They didn't have DeAndre Hopkins to start the season, so they've been just decimated with injuries throughout the year. I mean, it's pretty admirable that they were able to be 15-2 despite that. And I also think that this is a team that is a survive and advance type of team. They were sort of like that last year, and they're notorious for playing their best ball in late in the season in January and February. I mean, that's just kind of their MO. And, Andy Reid is notorious for, stashing away some plays that, we haven't seen, throughout the year and then save it for the big game. So, you have to be prepared for that. And, it's to me, it doesn't surprise me that, in the AFC Championship game, they were able to score their most points of the season. They like I said, they save their best for last, and that's something that the Eagles are going to have to contend with. But offensively, they're pretty much middle of the road. Now they have Hollywood Brown, they have Pacheco back, and they have some interesting offensive pieces. Obviously, Travis Kelce, saves his best ball for late in the season. So that's something to keep your eye on. These stats aren't the best, but I don't think that fully explains the Chiefs' success offensively. You have to put into context the injuries that they've faced, and they are, they like to save their best ball for later in the season. But defensively, they're elite. They are ninth in total defense. Their passing defense is 18th, and their run defense is eighth, and they have the fourth least most points allowed uh, in all of the NFL. So they are a very formidable defense. This has been a team that has, ever since they traded Tyreek Hill, they've become more and more of a defensive team. And obviously they have Patrick Mahomes, who can do great things. But this team, especially like last season, it's been more of a defensive team. And it's something that we hadn't been really accustomed to with the Chiefs, because they were so dynamic offensively. In Patrick Mahomes' early years, when he had Tyreek Hill, and then obviously Travis Kelsey when he was in his prime at the peak of his powers, they were clearly an offensive team. And I know, by the way, Andy Reid's calling plays. So this is a team that's kind of transitioned since the Tyreek Hill trade, and become more of a defensive oriented team. And if you watch the Super Bowl last year, the 49ers couldn't do anything on their secondary. I mean, Debo and Ayuk really had a hard time getting separation on McDuffie and Snead, who was on the team last year. Obviously they lost Snead. They traded him because they didn't really necessarily want to pay Snead, because you're going to have to lose players when you pay guys top dollar like Mahomes and Chris Jones and Travis Kelsey. So you don't have the luxury of keeping everybody. But despite all that, they still are a very formidable defense. Trent McDuffie is a tremendous corner. I'm very excited to see how him and AJ Brown match up. I think that's going to be a great battle. So yeah, the Chiefs are obviously they're here for a reason. They're here because of Mahomes and Reid, and they have one of the best defenses in all of football. And it's impressive to see a team that was like a high potent offense kind of transition to an offense that's sort of methodical, death by a thousand cuts. Obviously, we saw that 2 years ago in the Super Bowl, which ultimately was our downfall. But I think that they play defense at a high level, and they're very resourceful offensively despite injuries and stuff like that. So that's just something to keep in mind. As far as position advantages are concerned, I'm going to break down each position group. Quarterback, you obviously got to give the advantage to the Chiefs. Not an indictment on Jalen Hurts. It's Patrick Mahomes. I mean, he's the best quarterback in all football. You could argue that he's on the Mount Rushmore of quarterbacks. So it's not an indictment on Hurts. I mean, if he was going up against Allen, Burrow, Lamar, I mean, Mahomes takes the cake. I mean, he's the best quarterback in football. I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. I think the gap is closer than people think, but it's still, a decent sized gap nonetheless. So obviously the quarterback advantage goes to the Chiefs. The running back advantage obviously goes to the Eagles. Saquon Barkley, to me, I think has been the best football player this season. I mean, what is there to say at this point? I mean, I've talked enough about his greatness all year long. But the Chiefs, when healthy, do have a solid running game. Pacheco, um, when he's healthy, he's a formidable back. Obviously, he's taken a backseat to Kareem Hunt, who's had a bit of a renaissance this year. So that's something that the Eagles should take seriously. And Samaje Perine's an underrated player for them. He's a guy that is a really nice third down back who can catch passes out of the backfield. So they kind of have a nice three-headed monster there in their running game. But still, I mean, the Eagles with Saquon, with Jalen Hurts, obviously Jalen Hurts can run the ball and obviously open up things for Saquon in the RPO game. And Kenneth Gainwell is a nice change of pace back. And, when given the opportunity, Will Shipley is a pretty good running back as well. So overall, you got to give the nod to the Eagles. As far as wide receivers concerned, again, I give the nod to the Eagles here. With AJ and Devontae, I don't think that the Chiefs have the receivers that are as good as them. I think the receiving core is much better. It's gotten healthier. Obviously, they got Hollywood Brown back. They acquired DeAndre Hopkins. Um, they're much better than they were last year. But I mean, the Eagles, when utilized, I mean, Devontae and AJ, they're really tough to beat, and I'd give the Eagles the edge there. Tight end, this is interesting. I'd be very curious to see if Dallas Goedert played the whole year, and seeing what he's been able to do and how he's been able to produce in the postseason. Just at least for this year, if he stayed healthy, I'd be curious to see how his numbers were to shake up against Travis Kelsey. But it is Travis Kelsey. He saves his best ball for late in the season. And he had a down game against the Bills, but the two previous games he was productive. And, like I mentioned, he saves his best for last. And, just given the totality of the season and you look at the numbers, you got to give him the nod because I don't know how many times we always have to say Dallas Goedert, when healthy, is this, as far as tight ends are concerned, but when he is healthy, he is productive. But Travis Kelsey is arguably the GOAT, so I give him the nod there, even though he's not quite what he used to be, but he's still productive nonetheless. Offensive line, I give it to the Eagles, but it's a lot closer than people think. When Joe Tooney doesn't have to play left tackle, this is the best interior offensive line in all football. Joe Tooney, to me, is the best left guard in football. Creed Humphrey's the best center in football, and Trey Smith is a top five, arguably top three right guard in football. And oh, by the way, he's about to make a shit ton of money in the offseason. When you have, a couple Super Bowls under your belt, now it's all about really chasing the money, and he's gonna get a shit ton of money this year. I cannot overstate that. He's going to reset the guard market there, and he's going to make a lot of money, but he's also a very formidable player as well. But at the tackle position, I mean, it doesn't get better than the Eagles. Jordan Mailata, Lane Johnson, the two bookend tackles, the best tackle tandem in all football. It's something that the Eagles obviously have put a premium on since the Andy Reid days with Trey Thomas and John Runyon. And then, with Jason Peters was around, and then you had Lane Johnson with him, and now you have Mailata and Lane. Um, it doesn't get much better than that. And then even in the interior line, the Eagles, I think, to me, I thought that Landon Dickerson was snubbed of an all-pro vote, or an all-pro team, at least second team. I understand Quentin Nelson's been a model of consistency and a future Hall of Famer, but I thought this year he played his best football, just an absolute badass. Cam Jurgens, year one after Kelsey retired, he's already a Pro Bowler. Just a very solid player. Is only going to get better. He's a little banged up now, but I'm very curious to see how he progresses down the line. It's obviously with Jeff Stoutland coaching him up, and then Makai. Someone has to be the weak link on this offensive line, and he's probably it. But that just goes to show you how good this offensive line is. It's the best, I think, still the best offensive line in all football. Just incredible, as a collective. Like I mentioned, I think the Chiefs in the interior offensive line have the edge, but on the outside and as a collective at at the tackle position and as a collective, I give the edge to the Eagles. Now, defensively, this is very interesting because I think these are two of the best defenses in all football, and it's really close. I think D line. I think the Eagles get I would give the advantage to the Eagles. I think as a collective, they're much more formidable. They have more depth, and obviously with Brandon Graham back, that gives them a much needed boost. But they obviously have the best player, or excuse me, the Chiefs have the best player in Chris Jones in terms of the two defensive lines. But as a collective, I give the advantage to the Eagles. It's pretty close. Both, I mean, defensively, the gap in each of these position groups are very, very close. I just, just keep that in mind. It's not, I mean, given, if you were to give the edge to the Chiefs, I wouldn't lose sleep over it because they do have the best player. And, Karlaftis is a solid edge player. But I think as a collective, the Eagles are much more formidable. Linebacker, same thing. I think the Eagles have the best linebacker as a whole in Zach Bowen, obviously, but as a collective, the Chiefs linebacking core is incredible. Bolton is a solid linebacker. They run a 4-3 defense. So, they have three off-ball linebackers as opposed to the Eagles too. It'd be interesting if Nakobe Dean was available. But it's a numbers game, and with Tranquil, he's a solid player as well. Just as a collective, they are one of the best linebacking cores in football, and it's they have three guys on the field the majority of the time versus the Eagles too. So the numbers game obviously plays in the advantage of the Chiefs, and in secondary, I have the advantage going to the Eagles, but again, you could argue the Chiefs have the best overall player in Trent McDuffie. I just think the Eagles, from top to bottom, their secondary with Kenyon and Cooper, Darius Slay. I mean, ever since the fourth quarter of the Panthers game, he's been playing lights out football. CJGJ has been more consistent. We talk about him as a boomer bust player. He's more boom than bust this year. and Reed Blankenship is solid as always. So as a collective, I give the advantage to the Eagles. And as far as like special teams, kicker, punter, returners, you have to give the advantage to the Chiefs as far as the kicking game is concerned. If there is an Achilles heel in the Eagles, it's Jake Elliott. Unfortunately, you know, it's kind of crazy because you could argue Jake Elliott. If you were to say Jake Elliott was a top 5 Eagle last year, I like that's not crazy. He was as productive and as consistent as you can be last year, but this year it's a completely different story. It's unfortunate because he's a guy here who was here during the Super Bowl in 2017, and for whatever reason this year it seems like he has the yips. So I'd give the advantage to Bucker there. Punter, it's pretty much a push. I mean, with Matt Ariza and Braden Mann, their numbers are pretty similar. Like it's really close. So I have it as a push. And as far as the return game is concerned, I give the advantage to the Eagles. I just think they have more players, who can return kicks and return punts. They just have more depth there. So I'd give the advantage to the Eagles. And as far as coaching is concerned, you got to give the advantage to Andy Reid. I think Andy Reid is one of the best coaches of all time. I think Nick Sirianni, with a win here could silence a lot of people, and I do think there's something to how the players respond and resonate with him. So you know, you got to give the advantage to Andy Reid, and you're talking about a great defensive coordinator in Steve Spagnuolo, who's one of the best. I mean, you could argue one of the best defensive coordinators of all time. You could say what you want about his head coaching tenures with the Rams, but as a defensive coordinator, there's nobody better. I think the guy, you saw in the last play with Josh Allen, the blitz that they had on the right side, forcing him to throw it up. Steve Spagnuolo is very, very good defensive mind, and he has the Midas touch in terms of blitzing and when the blitz. He just seems like he knows what to do at the right time. But Vic Fangio obviously is a tremendous coach as well. I think he should be the assistant coach of the year, and Kellen Moore is probably off to New Orleans when the season is done. So both good. I mean, Matt Nagy also is a good offensive mind as well. Obviously that the Chiefs offense is Andy Reid's baby, but Matt Nagy, you could argue, how you whether or not he was a great head coach. He did lead Mitch Trubisky to 2 playoff appearances. I think there's something to be said about that. So I wouldn't be surprised in a year or 2 from now he gets another head coaching gig. So it's a really good battle between coaches. But you got to give the advantage to Andy Reid. I mean, we're talking about the greatest offensive mind of all time, so you got to give the Chiefs advantage there. As far as keys to victories, like I mentioned before, I don't think the Eagles really have to do a whole lot in terms of changing things up. I think it's imperative that they have long, methodical drives. Keep feeding Barkley like you do, and also bring in Gainwell here and there to spell him. I think it's a pretty simple formula. And then, you obviously have Jalen Hurts who can move with his legs. And now that he has more rest, uh, he should be more fresh to break off some runs and be more of a force in the running game than usual. Now that he had that week off, and also converting on 3rd and 4th down with his arm as well is going to be very very important. When they do that, when you factor in long methodical drives with Saquon Barkley, feeding Gainwell, feeding Hurts, and then Hurts keeping drives alive on 3rd and 4th down with his arm. This is a really tough team to beat, and the Commanders found out, that the hard way last 2 weeks ago. So to me, it's a pretty simple formula, and keep Mahomes off the field. I mean, the more you tire out the Chiefs defense and seeing Mahomes on the sidelines, the better this team will be, and the chances of them winning a Super Bowl will only improve as you keep that man off the sidelines. Because obviously Patrick Mahomes has 3 Super Bowl rings, and he has done a lot of damage in Super Bowls. So keep that man off the field. And I think it's going to be interesting with McDuffie going up against AJ. You have to imagine he's going to be shadowing AJ. So I think this is going to be an opportunity for Smitty and Goddard to feast. I really think that these guys can get open. Um, and impose their will on this Chiefs defense. And if you want to shut down AJ, that's fine. Smitty and Goddard can make up for that and make big plays. To me, if you're looking at Super Bowl MVPs, it wouldn't hurt to throw a little bit of money on Smitty and Goddard. I mean, if you look at the odds, um, Devontae Smith is a plus 6,500. To win Super Bowl MVP, and Dallas Goedert is a plus 12,000. So if you're gonna, I'm not saying put a lot of money on it, but if you want to sprinkle, $5, $10, maybe $20 if you feel ambitious, that might not be a bad play because I do think that these guys can be very productive. Let's see some of these odds here in terms of player props. Um, I'm very curious to see what the odds are for Devontae Smith because I put a lot of money on Devontae Smith to have the big game in the last Super Bowl, and it ended up paying out well for me. Um, Receiving props, uh, yeah, plus 125 for 65 yards or more for Devontae, and it's plus 120 for 60 yards for Goddard. If you can parlay both of them with that, I think that can be a pretty nice play for them. And then like plus 70 yards, it's plus 194 for Devontae and plus 183 for Goddard. I think these are smart plays if you're betting the game. I really believe that these guys are going to go off and have productive games. I think that they should easily get 70 plus yards apiece between Smitty and Goddard. So that might be the play for some of you gamblers out there. So just keep that in mind. And as far as defensively, or no, the other thing is must get touchdowns, must finish drives with touchdowns, have these long methodical drives ending in touchdowns. Um, because you don't know with Jake Elliott. Now, granted, they're not playing in inclement weather; they're in a dome, so that should help things with Jake Elliott. But you got to score touchdowns going up against Mahomes and Reid because they're going to throw the kitchen sink at you, and you got to be prepared for it. And you got to cash in with touchdowns. You cannot leave the meat on the bone. You don't want to end up like you did in uh 2 years ago in 2022. In that Super Bowl, you don't want to leave food on the table, so to speak. You want to make advantage or take advantage and make the most of these drives and cash in with touchdowns. So touchdowns are a premium here for sure. Defensively, contain Mahomes. I mean, I cannot overstate that enough. We obviously know how great he is. We obviously know how great he is in this environment in the Super Bowl. So keeping him contained is key. Because he likes to break off some runs and he likes to utilize his legs as we get later in the season. But I do think that the Eagles front, the depth that they have, guys like Josh Sweat who are very versatile, who can obviously get to the quarterback, but are also really good in run defense. Nolan Smith, can be aggressive, but when he crashes down, he's really tough to stop. I think he's going to give Jawan Taylor a lot of problems given his speed. I'd be very curious to see how many false starts that Jawan Taylor get away with because he's going to have he's going to have a lot to deal with Nolan Smith and his speed. So, but I think you have Jordan Davis who's peaking at the right time, is obviously very formidable in the run defense. Same thing with Jalen Carter. So I think they have the tools to slow down Mahomes in the run game. And, I think the Chiefs tackles are there to be had. Having Brandon Graham back, I think, is a huge boost. So you have depth to tire these guys out. I think Joe Tooney is obviously a natural guard, but, has been decent enough at tackle. But I think we can get after it because that's not his natural position. And they have the depth to do it. So I feel good about that, despite the fact that Mahomes is very mobile, but they have the resources and the guys to stymie him in the run game. So that's going to be key. Like I mentioned before, this is one of the better interior offensive line groups. Even with Joe Tooney moving out to left tackle, you still have to deal with Creed Humphrey. You still have to deal with Trey Smith. So that's going to be very key matchup with Jalen Carter, Milton Williams, and Jordan Davis. They're going to have to steal some one-on-ones. If they can do that and get them Mahomes, that's going to be big. And the defense should, to me as a whole, like in the back seven or back six, um, it's sort of like what they've been doing all year. Bend don't break. The defenses. The defense that played the Chiefs in the Super Bowl 2 years ago was productive, especially with the pass rush, but it's a lot different. I mean, it's really a tale of two defenses, despite both their successes. The defense in 2022 predicated off the pass rush, and they got to the quarterback. They obviously set the record for most sacks in the season, and the linebackers and the corners and the safeties cleaned everything up. Well, this time around, our defense is basically built from our linebackers to our secondary. They, bend don't break. They're where they need to be. They're technically sound, and they keep everything in front of them. And that's going to be key in this game, because if you remember in that Super Bowl in the second half, it was a death by 1,000 cuts. And, Jonathan Gannon didn't really make the requisite adjustments, and it kind of burned us a bit there. So, yeah, it's just basically playing with the same, intensity, playing, with the same mentality like you've been playing all year. But I do, like, I can't stress enough how Mahomes and Reid likes to, save their best for last. And you have to expect big plays. You have to expect different looks that you're not accustomed to. So it's really going to be about bend don't break, and it's going to be also uh, imperative that our pass rush gets them homes as well, and steal one-on-ones against the interior. Really targeting Jawan Taylor, and doing different things to kind of confuse him to get to Mahomes, and you want to get Mahomes forcing the ball. That's what you want him to do. He has a tendency to do that when he's under duress, and you would hope that the Eagles continuously score touchdowns, continuously make the most of their drives to force Mahomes to make mistakes, because he is accustomed to doing that. When he feels that he needs to make a big play, he does tend to get overzealous at times. So you want to put the Chiefs in that scenario. You want that offense um, to think like, oh, we gotta overcompensate for the defense being worn down. Um, and I think Mahomes, has a tendency to make mistakes. If you get them Mahomes, if you remember the Buccaneers Super Bowl, he was running for his life, trying to do too much, and that's what you want to do here. Keep the receivers at bay, keep Travis Kelce at bay, our linebackers and our secondary, keeping everything in front of them is going to be key. And you know, be technically sound, be where you need to be. Don't let the Chiefs have space, especially with guys like Xavier Worthy, who I don't know why I forgot to mention, but he's another guy that's emerged, and a guy that you got to imagine have some packages for him. They're going to try to get him the ball, get him in space. But this Eagles defense has done a really good job in space, crashing, pursuing, filling holes, getting to where they need to be. So just keep doing what they're doing, but also keep in the back of your mind that they're going to try to run. They're going to try to steal big plays, but this defense is capable of stopping all that. So I feel good about that. And then obviously no turnovers offensively for the Eagles. They've done a tremendous job. Jalen Hurts has done a tremendous job all year long of protecting the football. So that's going to be very key as well. So as far as my final prediction is concerned, I have the Eagles winning 34-24. I think it will be close throughout the game. I just think, look, dude, the Eagles have the best roster with not many weaknesses other than Jake Elliott, and they have great players everywhere, and they have the blueprint. They have the blueprint to beat the Chiefs. They have the blueprint to have long, methodical drives to keep Patrick Mahomes off the field, and they have a defense that can contain, and a defense that can suffocate offenses and make it hard to throw the ball and not have a lot of space. Like, I really feel good about this Eagles team. I really think that this is a team that can can get it done. And I understand that this is a place where Mahomes and Reid have thrived in the Super Bowl. But I really think the team that showed up against the Commanders, that complete effort that you got offensively and defensively and special teams, with the exception of Jake Elliott at times, I, I just don't really see a lot of teams beating them, and I really feel good about this game because because the Eagles don't have to change a whole lot. Like they basically just stick to what they're doing. They're tried and true, which is running the ball. Jalen Hurts picking up third and fourth down conversions, and the defense playing lights out. I mean, to me, I think that is a blueprint to beat a team specifically like the Chiefs, who like to steal big plays. So I have the Eagles winning 34-24. I think it's going to be close, and I think that 24, and I think the Eagles get a crucial sack late in the game, and make it third and long, and then Mahomes um, feels like he has to do too much, and I think someone like Slay, someone like CJGJ will take advantage of that and take it to the house. That's how I feel like this game is going to end. I feel like it's going to be sort of like what you saw at the end of the Saints Colts Super Bowl with Tracy Porter. Um, Taking one to the house from Peyton Manning. I think you're going to see that in the Super Bowl. Just a gut feeling. So I have the Eagles winning 34-24, and I feel good about it. I feel really good. See the Super Bowl cup? I want to get another one. And I think I'm going to get another one because I feel good about this. Um, yeah, man, I'm super jacked up, man. I really think the Eagles have the template to win this game. A lot of people that I've talked to feel like the Eagles are going to win close or blow them out, and I could very well see that. I think the Eagles have better players. I really do, and as good as Mahomes and Reid are, I still think that Jalen Hurts can match Mahomes. He matched them in the first meeting in the Super Bowl. I think he absolutely can do it again. And I don't think that this Chiefs defense is quite as good as they were last year. So I think the Eagles offense are going to take advantage of that. So I feel really good about this, man. I really want this so fucking bad. I cannot overstate it, and I know you guys want it bad too. I'm tired of having one Super Bowl, and I praise Howie and I praise Jeffrey Lurie for what they've done with this team since the 21st century. The Eagles have the third most Super Bowl appearances since 2004. Obviously, the Patriots and the Chiefs have the most, and that speaks volumes to how good this organization is. But God damn it, we are too good of an organization to only have one Super Bowl. We obviously left some meat on the bone 2 years ago. And there have been a couple years. The year that we lost the last game of the vet to the Buccaneers, I thought should have culminated in Super Bowl. I felt like the Eagles would have run roughshod over Rich Gannon and the Raiders in that Super Bowl. So, it's time to make up for lost ground. It's time to get another Super Bowl. I'm tired of having only one. And, that you can say that's a little selfish and you come across, and I come across like a spoiled brat, but I mean, this is the expectation, and I knew that this was the expectation all year long. I knew that this team could get here. I knew this team that with the talent that they have, with the minimal weaknesses that they have, um, can get to this point. And it's time to get another one. I'm tired of having only one, and it's time we are the gold standard. Jeffrey Lurie famously said that the Eagles are the gold standard, and he even said that prior to ever winning a Super Bowl. But if we win two, factor in the last 20 years having the third most appearances, I think we have an argument there. And we killed one dynasty in 2017, and I think we can kill another one. I really feel good about this, and yeah, I think the Eagles are going to get it done. I think they're going to get their second Lombardi, and we're going to be partying it up on Broad Street in 5 Points. That's how I feel. So that's my review or preview of the Super Bowl. Check us out on Old City Sports on Sunday. I will be doing a podcast with the Philly guys as well as uh, Michael Roscoe of Second 15. We're going to get together and discuss the game, but I wanted to get on here to give more of a comprehensive preview to the Super Bowl, that I feel really good about. I think the Eagles are going to win this game, and I know you guys out there feel the same way. So take care, stay safe, no matter where you are for the game. Hopefully the snow isn't as bad.